Hi everybody, in this video I will talk about controllers. So keyboard controllers, what it means keyboard controller? It means it has to control something. What something? Hardware or software? Now I have here in front of me two types of controllers. Older controllers is meant to control hardware, mostly hardware. A newer controller that can control hardware and software. This is the best, the most universal controller to controlling hardware and software. New version MK3 61SL MK3 is more oriented toward controlling hardware, toward controlling software, and I will tell you why. But let us start now. Let us start with Roland A37. This controller has two MIDI outputs, so it means you can connect two different instruments, hardware, keyboards or sound modules that you can control on output A and output B. And this controller, if you in front of you, you can see has all those buttons and some functionality here, but it doesn't have sliders like this one, those sliders or those sliders. It has just it has buttons and just one slider. This slider is programmed mostly, you can program whatever you want here, but since this controller is mostly meant to control hardware, it's logical that you can here control volume for that hardware that you are playing. Now, what is this here? What we have here? We have a lower part that we can assign, upper part that we can assign what we want to control, and we can split this keyboard. And what we have here in edit, we have edit control, edit data, edit program change. For example, control is this line here, data is this line here, and program change is this line here. If we want to control program change, when we turn that program change, we can control MSB messages, LSB messages, and program change message. And in these parts, you can read all those information. We can control channel, volume, pan pot, expression. So we will decide on which channel we want to control what, which kind of this message, and we can memorize that on this button. When we press that button, we will call all that function that we already programmed and we want to have in this sound. So what are those buttons? With those buttons, when you program them, for example, on output A, sound number 22, it's actually mostly programming to calling some sounds from hardware or software. So if you want to call one sound that you memorize on number 44, you just press 44. If you want to control sound on number 11, 11, or number 18, 1, 8. So that means with those buttons, you are calling memorize sounds from hardware or software. You can do some transpose, you can go octave up, down, and you can there is just for write, enter, write, and exit function related to programming. When you are programming, if you want to write some program that you made, or exit from there, or enter there. So that's it about this controller. For controlling sounds that you programmed, once when you make program of that sound, you can call that sound with your own program with changes that you made on this controller. And that is about this controller. Now this controller is advanced controller. You can control sounds and you can control more function, mixings, and you can go deeper in shaping sound. So why this controller, in my opinion, is the best controller ever made for controlling software and hardware? I tried all of those controllers, not all of those, but whatever is available here in Canada. I tried every controller that I found in the store, in any store here in Canada. So most of them, they are made to control softwares. Because today people mostly buy controllers to control softwares and control virtual instruments. What are virtual instruments? Actually, they are softwares that are virtually imitating some instruments. You have most instruments, especially old instruments like M1 and other instruments, and even a lot of new instruments in virtual instruments that are amazing. You can do great job with them. People are using them in studio, in live performing. So you need keyboard to control them. That's why we have this controller. What this controller is capable to do? With this controller, you can call sounds. You can memorize sounds. You can memorize functions. And you can memorize mixing, processing, and you can memorize some features in sound shaping and editing. Let me see what do I have here. In this part, I can control resonance, release, attack, cutoff, reverb, chorus, portamento time. I can control polyphony, monophony. I can control and call some instruments, change them volume. I can mix them, and for example, and here in this part is same story. So let me go here. I can control mixing of my Cubase, my Pro Tools, any another software, or I can control mixing of parts on my arranger keyboard, like channel number 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, everything that I can find in my arranger keyboard in style section. Beside of that, I can call instruments here from any channel, from any MIDI channel. I can call them, and from any instrument or software. So there's a lot of control. As well, I can control sequencer, loops. I can control a lot of function. I can control paths. With paths, I can make a lot of interesting things. So I have joystick, and I have here control as well. So now, what do we have extra here? We have two MIDI outputs. We have USB connection output for software, where we can control a lot of functions. We can, at the same time, we can control software and we can control hardware. We can decide on this potentiometer, we can decide on which channel, through which connection, MIDI or USB, we can send message to one of USB connected virtual instruments, or we can send message to control through USB connection or through MIDI connection hardware. You saw my video where I'm controlling my Catron SD90 through USB connection. I'm getting power to this controller, and I can control functionality, mixing, shaping sound, and a lot of other things. So even you have control to control aftertouch and touch sensitivity in every in the keyboard, on the keyboard. So I guess you got now idea what is difference between those two controllers. Whenever you want to buy a controller, you have to explore. You have to know exactly for what you are buying this controller. If you are buying to control hardware, you are looking for buttons and some potentiometer as well as to shape sounds. But if you are controlling software, then you don't need too much buttons because you can control. You are actually controlling from your Cubase, from your DAW. You can control calling sounds. So that is about it. I think I told you most of the things. There's a lot about talking about this, but I cannot tell you everything in one video. So I will. I made some video with controlling some hardware with this controller, but in future I will make some video in controlling virtual instruments and software as well with Novation S61 SL MK2. And I think I already mentioned that MK3 doesn't have joystick, it has wheels. I prefer joystick. And MK3 doesn't have so many buttons that I prefer to have if I'm controlling my hardware, because I want to be able to call sounds just or combination just by pressing those buttons. Now I have plenty of those buttons. In MK3 you don't have plenty of those buttons. You have some other functionality. You have to go around, and it is more software oriented, but I like this version where I can go directly to some function, because if I'm performing in live performing, I don't have too much time to go around to get something. I have to go directly to the function that I want to get. Thank you for watching this video, and hopefully this video will explain you some differences in controllers and give you some idea when you want to buy a controller or choose controller. Have a great day and happy holidays.